Okay. So we've got our celebrity interview today. So we have Norbert Majerus. So he has 12 years experience in lean. The majority of his experience is in lean product development and innovation. Currently, he is a lean champion and book author, and I actually happen to have a copy of Norbert's book here, Lean Driven Innovation. So if you ever want to kind of read this, or I suppose Norbert would be happy if you went out and bought a copy, right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to go ahead and talk to Norbert. Norbert, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, I listened to some of your class there. I think you have some lucky students. I wish I would have had a class like this. But first of all, we were, I attended university a long time ago. I don't remember how long, but we didn't learn, we only learned science, math, and in my case, chemistry. But we really didn't learn what to do with that stuff. And I think I had to learn when on the job. And when Lean came out, I read dozens of books. That was the only way to learn about it. And I'm really glad that you are teaching this stuff. And I would say I'm glad that students learn it, because companies like to hire people who know this stuff these days. Well, I can definitely assure you that that's the case.
Yeah, we try to keep it as practical as we reasonably can. Nice balance between theory and practice here at Cal Poly. So Norbert, I'm real happy you could join us. You're joining us from Cincinnati, right?
No, Akron, Ohio.
Oh, that's right, the tire place.
Yes, and it's not snowing right now, but it will snow tonight. So.
Okay. So Norbert, maybe you can tell me and the students a little bit about what your current position is at Goodyear and what its relationship is to Lean.
Yeah, my title is Lean Champion. I'm kind of an internal consultant here on Lean. Before that, I implemented many processes here at Goodyear in the innovation centers. We have 3 innovation centers, by the way, 2 in Europe and 1 in the US. And now we are at the stage where the process is handled by a group that's called Lean Operations, and we have a global director, Lean Operations. So I'm still putting a few hands on that process here and there, but that runs pretty much on its own. So what I'm currently doing, for example, last year, the year before, my major job was to write the book that you just showed. And the last year, I spent most of my time applying for the AME Operational Excellence Award, and we did get that award. Actually, that was, I think it was the first time an R&D organization or an innovation center got that award. And the reason I did that is because we needed an acknowledgement, our leadership needed an acknowledgement that we are on the right track with what we are doing. And so that's what I spent most of my time there. And this year, actually, I'm going to embark on spending my time on the fuzzy front end of the process, having new ideas and then taking those ideas and putting them on a path to a successful project. We are doing that, of course. In fact, we launched several new products last week at our dealer conference.
Hey, Norbert, I'm just going to sort of interrupt you a little bit, because I think I want to try to tie things into some of the things that the students have been learning in the class. And one of the things that we're talking about, I think just last Monday, we were talking about, the Muda of that eighth waste, or wasted worker knowledge and creativity.
Yes.
And when you talk about this idea of a fuzzy front end, I'm not sure everybody in the class is sort of familiar with like what you're talking about, or how that relates to this idea of worker creativity and knowledge.
Yeah, of course you try to have as many ideas. In our case, we develop tires, and you try to have as many new ideas as you can. But those are just fuzzy ideas, and most of them will not be successful. And that's kind of the name of the game. You look at many of these ideas, and you use lean tools to identify them and to get them on the path of a successful project as quickly and as efficiently as you can.
Yeah.
That is what I spend a lot of my time on right now.
Well, I guess that's where you are now, Norbert. I want to hear a little bit about your lean journey. So you've got 12 years in lean.
Yeah.
What did your journey look like? How do you get to be in a position like you are at Goodyear?
Yeah, well, at Goodyear, we realized about 12 years ago, that we had a serious problem. We were just not able to launch new products fast enough. We were able to launch them, but only a third of the projects that we needed were launched successfully, and we were several years late on every single project or every single product. And we understood that we could not be competitive in our industry with that kind of a performance. And that's actually what kicked off our lean journey. And we had tried many other tools before. We had tried Design for Six Sigma. We had the Six Sigma programs, and we are still doing those. They are still very good programs. But we were really missing out on launching product. And that is where we applied lean, and that was very successful for us. Today, we are launching about 1,500 new products every year, and every one of them is on time. And believe it or not, we're making money on virtually every one of them now, which wasn't the case before. So it's a very unusual place to apply lean, and but it worked out really well for us.
So could you, you talked to us about the fuzzy front end. Maybe is that your sort of current sort of lean challenge, or maybe sort of taking it back to the organizational level for Goodyear? Is everybody on board with this lean stuff? Is everybody true believers, or what's that look like from a cultural standpoint at Goodyear?
Well, when we started, we had a good sponsor. In fact, our chief technical officer at that time, he was absolutely convinced. Well, first of all, he was convinced that we had to do something. But he also was convinced that this was a good way of doing it, but we had no idea how to do it. But the way we started on this thing is we had to get all our experts engaged in this and get them on board, because they had to come up with the way to do it. And they had to really change the processes, change the way they were working, and then also sustaining it. That was a challenge, but I think we are beyond that by now. That is running like a real operation today. But I have to admit that what I'm working on right now, I don't have people on board, and that is still a big challenge. My idea how to get people on board is through education. So people need to be taught, and people need to learn. People need to then realize, hey, there may be something here, and then they have to find out how that applies to the work they do every day. and then we work with them to develop the right processes to do it. And that is currently my biggest challenge, not for the part of the work that I just described, launching product. We're pretty good at that now, but it is trying to get better at having more ideas, evaluating them faster, and putting them on a path of a successful project faster. So I don't have to buy in for that, to be quite honest, but I'm making progress. I had a very good class 2 weeks ago in Luxembourg in our innovation center there. I had all the people there who are working in that process, and we had our first learning session about it. I didn't quite sell it, but I think I got about halfway this time. So
okay, good. So maybe you tell us about your greatest, was lean success or failure. And, as lean folks, we want to know it's all about, learning. So success or failure, and what did you learn?
Well, we can talk about the successes. Probably for me, the highlight, the recent highlight was when we did get the AME award. And one thing that I really learned there, people always, lean has had very little application in product development, very, very little. People either think it can't be done, or people think it wouldn't work, or they find reasons not to do it. I personally believe that the impact there can even be much, much higher than even in the manufacturing environment. So taking our process and taking a really manufacturing view at it, and taking a protocol like the AME, by the way, that stands for Association for Manufacturing Excellence, really taking that thinking, and they came in and they did an assessment of our company according to those criteria, and we got the award with flying colors. I think that should give a lot of people confidence. Hey, this is nothing different. We just took some very solid lean principles and some very good solid lean thinking and applied it to a process that many people thought it couldn't be applied to. Well, at least we proved that now. It can be, and it can work very, very well. Failures is another story. If you want my opinion, I don't think we had failures. And the reason I'm saying that is because we tried many, many, many things and they didn't work. Well, to me, that's not a failure. That's what you have to do to be successful. You have to try things and try things again and try more things, and they may work or they don't work. But if they don't work, you learn from that. You learn that that's not the direction to go in. And if you say then, hey, lean doesn't work because this thing failed, well, that's where I disagree with a lot of people.
Yeah.
You learn from that and have to take a different approach, and maybe that one works, and maybe you have to tune that one again. And eventually you get it to work. And to me, I'm absolutely convinced that to take any process out there, fail many, 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 many times, you will learn and get this to work and be successful. So that's what failure means to me.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of one of the nice things I like about lean is the fact that it's got that embedded scientific process in there with the the PDCA and
PDCA, yes,
and the ability to experiment. But so I want to go on to what's your favorite go-to lean tool or concept?
Yeah,
I'm actually interested in with your application in the R&D and product development areas. Or some lean tool that works particularly well or is better in that kind of environment?
There again, the answer is not simple. And in fact, when I teach the lean product development certification, like a black belt certification for lean product development, and one of the exercises that I do with my class at the beginning of the class is I give everybody a lean concept or a lean person to go do some research on. And the purpose of this is to show this enormous diversity that goes in there. There are so many different things out there. And to be quite honest, we had to go and pick from virtually every single one to get it to work. And I think that is something that a message I want to give to my students that, hey, this is not just pick one and you'll be successful. This is about finding out all these different things that are out there and finding out what works and what doesn't work. This is very complicated. This is not very easy. You need to really have that broad thinking about it. But then I want to also say that there is a book out there, and I'm sure some of your students may have read it. It's called Factory Physics. It's about the scientific background of most of those principles. That is a book that I have consulted many, many, many times and still consult today. And one other thing that always, that really stuck with me since the beginning, a lot of the people of the lean books and so on don't even talk about this concept. It's the theory of constraints. It's one of the oldest ones out there. It's one of the most popular business books that got ever written. And it is an extremely simple concept. It dates back to the 80s. I found that so unbelievably useful for everything we did with lean in product development. And I think I'm glad I stumbled on it very early on because it worked extremely well. And I just taught it again last week actually in my class. And I still can't believe how Mr. Goldratt had it right in the 80s. And something similar happened to him than happened to Deming. It took a long time for those things to get discovered and to sink in. Well, to me, that is still one of the easiest things to do for lean, and the ones definitely one that made us very successful in our journey.
Okay, good. So what I'm going to do, Norbert, now at this point is turn the questioning over to the students in the class. And in order to do that, I'm going to give them a couple of minutes, or let's say, so there'll be 1 minute to sort of think of a question, and then 2 minutes to sort of turn to your neighbors. We'll also do a breakout sort of thing. And we do this in order to get, good questions that we can ask Norbert. And I know that you guys, or the people that are sort of listening here, are sort of new to lean, and maybe you feel, you don't, you're embarrassed by, the simplicity of your question, or you don't sort of understand. Norbert handles these things every day, and I think
that's correct.
And then, and I'm sure that Norbert can answer a few questions about tires if you have them too. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll put 1 minute on the timer here. Go ahead and think of a question.
Go in the breakout room.
Let's go to, I tell you what, let's go direct to the breakout room. So 2 minutes, come up with a good question for Norbert. All right? So, hit the button when there's 1 minute left to go in order for people to be forced out of the breakout rooms. But what kind of questions do you have for Norbert? Who wants to start us off with a question? White walls, black walls?
We got one online.
Okay, I've got an online question. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you well, Alistair.
Okay. It sounds like you do a lot of brainstorming and you get a lot of ideas flowing. I was just wondering if you had a particular tool or method that you preferred for ranking those from greatest to least on return.
Hey, that is an excellent question. That's actually where we spend a lot of time on right now. You have very, very little information on those ideas, and ranking is very, very difficult. So your first thought would be how to get as much information as possible. And a method that I like to do is you have to come up with what is the most important question about that idea. Like, for example, would it be that would a customer even think about it? Or would we ever get legal approval to sell anything like that? I like to go to that most important question first of those ideas, and then see how can I the fastest possible what's the fastest possible way I get that answer, because that way you eliminate most of these ideas, and you eliminate them in a very, very systematic way. We caught ourselves many times that we had a product completely developed, and then we couldn't get, in the case of a tire, you need legal approval, Department of Transportation approval, then we couldn't get that approval. So we just wasted so much time. Or you are in a situation where, hey, you can never even think about selling this thing. And there are so many tools out there now today, looking at social media and internet and so on, that you can very quickly answer those questions. So to me, that's the number one thing that we learned to sort out a good idea from a bad one.
I just sort of add on to that, I really sort of like that, because when Alistair asked that question, my mind sort of immediately jumped to like an impact effort matrix, where you say, okay, how much impact or money can you make from the idea versus how much effort does it take to do it? But I forget about that. Maybe there's some sort of key question that you would ask first to kind of screen things down even more, because why would you even go through the trouble of doing that sort of impact effort analysis if it's a key question eliminated from the get-go, right?
Absolutely correct. Working on the wrong idea would be a waste, but evaluating as many new ideas that you can, there's actually big value in that.
Okay, we get another question for Norbert.
We have an online, if anyone.
Oh, let's go with the online.
Okay. So Ted is obviously pretty loud, so he wants me to read this off. Okay. He says, how do you roll lean tools like SIPOC and value stream mapping into the soft processes you're working with?
Let me repeat this to make sure I got it right. How do you incorporate tools like value stream mapping or SIPOC into the work that you are doing? Is that right?
Yes. Okay.
What we are working on here is not. I'm trying to develop better processes to do this. I'm not trying to have ideas how to make better tires. I'm trying to develop a process that engineers will use to develop better tires. So that's what my job is about. And in order to understand that process, I will have to always map it out. I prefer value stream mapping over SIPOC, by the way, but all these processes need to get mapped out, because there is no way that you can see them. If you go in a manufacturing environment, you can see product. You're still better off if you do a value stream map. But if you work on processes that are all in the heads of the people, you really have to work hard at mapping them out as good as you can, that you can understand them, because if you don't understand those processes, it's going to be very, very, very hard to develop them or to improve them. So those are tools that we use, that we really use a lot. I prefer the value stream mapping because it has a lot more information than the SIPOC, but there's nothing wrong with that tool either. We used it a lot in the past. In fact, that's how our whole initiative on lean product development had started, with a SIPOC map that that was the first step we ever did.
Hey, Norbert, so just to follow up a little bit, so I'm thinking about a value stream map and thinking about how we use that value stream map in hard goods manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
So, inventory between the processes. But if you're doing product development, is the inventory a transaction or an idea, or what? I think that a little bit of Ted's question sort of leads me in that direction, right?
Well, we finished goods inventory in a innovation process or product development process is not really, that doesn't exist. You don't develop a product and then put it on the shelf. But for us, the inventory is work in progress. Taking these hundreds of ideas, I mean, now we have hundreds of ideas that is work in progress. And that's what we would show on that value stream map, because when they are sitting somewhere, that is work in progress that overages very, very quickly. And after a while, that you have to really deal with them fast. So that would be the inventory that we show on the value stream map.
Okay. Another question for Ted, for Norbert. Question. Get somebody from the class here. Leave me hanging on this. There we go.
So can you explain exactly what the theory of constraints is? You're talking about at the very end of the original lecture.
Norbert, you don't necessarily have to do exactly, but do you have the thumbnail version of the theory of constraints?
Yeah, I can. I have a thumbnail version of that. The idea is that if you have a process, if you have several process steps, that work together, like somebody manufactures something on one machine, and then it goes to the next, and then that machine does something, and so on. If they work in sequence, the system can never produce more than the slowest part of that process. And the idea is that you find the slowest piece, and that that everybody else kind of tries to help that slowest piece first, and then once you have that identified and everybody supports that slowest member of the chain there, then you try to work and improve that one single operation. Because if you improve all the other steps that are not the bottleneck, that won't help you. It only helps you if you improve that one single operation that is your bottleneck. And that's where you want to invest in, and that's where you really get a direct return of your investment.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. We can talk about that more if you want at some point. Also going to say that theory of constraints is a very Googleable term, right? And there's probably even some little videos and things.
Oh, absolutely. There's a great video out on it, and I would definitely recommend taking a look at it. It's actually fun to watch.
Yeah, okay, good. How about one more question for Norbert? Let's go to have one. Yeah, there we go, back row.
Okay, you mentioned that at Goodyear you didn't have 100% support at implementing new processes. Was that opposition more at higher level management or more ground level, maybe production based? Even though you guys are doing the ideas, maybe production or production crews were kind of against what they would have to do if a certain product was introduced.
Okay, Norbert, did you hear that question?
No, not completely. I'd appreciate if you could repeat it.
So you mentioned that you didn't have 100% buy-in necessarily to lean at Goodyear, and maybe that was just the front part or the fuzzy part or whatever.
Yeah.
Are those people in management, or are those people on the front line, or do they wear special T-shirts, or what are they?
Unfortunately, they are everywhere. But the way you get buy-in, the engineers and so on, you really have to convince them. You have to convince them what is in there for them. And making the jobs easier and better for them is definitely the biggest motivation there. But engineers also are interested in what's the best for the company, believe it or not. They really believe that they can only be successful if also the company is successful. So that helps tremendously. With management, with the leadership, it's a little bit more difficult. The only thing that helps with leadership is that you show results. And it is very important in a big transformation like that, that you plan for that and that you pick like a low-hanging fruit or something where you can actually quickly show results. Believe it or not, there's nothing more that convinces leadership and top management than results. And if you pick a little thing down here in a process that you can do a major improvement, if that improvement is not visible to the bottom line where you can show leadership that this is actually going to help us make more money or grow the company or something like that, it is very hard to convince leadership. And that's a very good question, by the way, because that is a big lesson that I learned personally in this whole thing. If I would do it over, I would do a much better job planning for those things. And we were kind of maybe lucky, or it took a long time to get it, but I would plan to get that a lot earlier. If you show results, things change very, very quickly. All of a sudden you get support and you get resources and you get funding and you name it. But without that, it's kind of playing in the sandbox.
Yeah. No, I've sort of, been down that same road as you. You think it's obvious that this is a good thing to do, or that people will be sort of easily sort of convinced. But the two things, showing engineers why this helps them get their work done and how it's good for the company, and then also demonstrating results for management. I think those two really sort of key things to move a program along.
Absolutely.
So Norbert, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Could you, what is your best piece of advice for some young people starting out on their lean journey to maybe wrap things up here?
Well, I would still give young people the advice to really learn something technical or whatever, learn the trade, your math, your chemistry, your physics, whatever. That is still probably opens the most doors for a good career. But to have a second thing like a background of lean, or a background of product development, or things like that, I think becomes more and more important. People used to say, well, you need to get a PhD or do very deep technical knowledge. Yes, there's also demand for that. Don't get me wrong, there's also demand for that. And there is also still demand to have an MBA or something similar. But a lot of colleges are these days offering a variety of MBAs, not only the business, but you can do an MBA in actually, some colleges offer it in lean or things like that. We see a lot of people, young people coming in with like a technical degree and then a master's degree in a discipline like an MBA or lean or Six Sigma or things like that. And I think today that is a very good thing to have if you want to apply for a job. And there is need for that. There is need for deep technical knowledge, like which you get in a PhD, but there's also definitely need for that diversity, that broader background. not only know your technology, but also know a little more about it, how to best use it, and how to help a company get better at how they do things.
Right.
So I think you're on the right track with what you're learning. As I said at the beginning, I wish I would have had that opportunity. I could certainly have used it tremendously in my career. I came in on that very late in my career, had to learn it all by myself, but that was enjoyable too, by the way. I do not regret having done that. But that head start, I believe that will help a lot of young people today.
All right, Norbert, thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and let you go. I know it's later your time, but I think we give you a little round of applause.
Well, thank you very much, and best of luck to you and all your students for the learning, and especially when they are done with it, to get a head start on a great career.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, Norbert, thank you. Let's go ahead and take how about a 4-minute break? So 20 after, we'll go ahead and get started again. I'll run a few slides and then get you moving. All right, so 4-minute break.